So I'm going to, if we have a little bit of time, I'll actually pull up a live recording that I did of one of our services 2 months ago. I don't know, with a full band, multi-track recorded. I mixed it on here last night on my AirPods. If we have time, we'll see if we can run through that. And I'll actually talk about like EQ and compression a little bit. But real quick, this will apply to everyone. Monitors. Dun, dun, dun. For the band. This is, if you can get your monitors right for your band, whether it's in-ears or floor wedges or whatever, it'll make or break your day. Monitors are typically run through the front of house soundboard, through bus sends. You don't have to get all this. I'm just kind of running through it. These should always be run pre-fader, no question about that. There are two main types of monitors used for live music, floor wedges and in-ear monitors. I think we all know the difference between those. Floor wedges are like that speaker on the ground. In-ear monitors, you either love them or you hate them. But I learned to love them because I used to hate them.
Why'd you look at me when you said that?
I'm using the strategy of like looking around. Floor wedges, one thing to keep in mind if you ever use them, only turn up what is essential. The less stage noise, the better. I think everyone kind of gets that. In-ear monitors, they solve the big problem of stage noise, or they help solve it a lot, because it puts all the monitor noise right in here. And I just want to throw out a couple tips. Everyone kind of knows, if you used them, you already know how they work, sort of. I just want to throw out some tips that I found as a musician and a sound person that helped elevate the experience of using in-ear monitors. Having a good mix in your in-ears will make all the difference in enjoying using them. And I'll talk about what a good mix might sound like in a little bit. But one of the keys is, depending on your role in the band, learn and know what you need to hear to play or sing with your band. So you need to hear yourself. That's the most important, to make sure you're playing correctly. And you need to hear something to keep you on tempo and on pitch. Once you have those things set and you can hear them well enough, then you can start turning other things up to taste. And being able to hear everyone in your band at some level is nice, because then you can connect with your band. In-ears are great, but they can also block out everything, which we'll touch on in a second. If possible, using a stereo mix in your in-ears is far superior to a mono mix. I won't dive into this too much, because sometimes you just can't do stereo mixes on in-ears. You might run out of bus sends. You don't have to get that if you don't. But if you have a stereo mix, panning things left and right is a huge life hack to making your in-ear mix baller, as Jairus would say. This is a basic like audio engineering truth, fact, I don't know. Humans, we have two ears. We have a left ear and a right ear, and we hear in stereo. Actually, that's interesting, because that changes how you would use in-ears. And you might actually have to look into like fully deaf or partially deaf.
Yeah, I can't hear it this year at all.
So you would, stereo mix wouldn't apply then. You could save some space on the board. Yeah, sorry, you can't pan things now. But if you're able to, panning helps. Especially when things start to muddy up and frequencies start to stack on top of each other and you just can't distinguish, there's no clarity. Panning things left and right can clear up space in a mix. This is like a foundational mixing technique, is pan. You pan things left and right that are not essential, so that the essential things like yourself or maybe the acoustic guitar, which is driving the rhythm, is in the center. Moving on, audience/room mics. I think that's one back there. Am I correct, Caleb?
Sorry, what was it? Yes.
Is that a room mic back there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, on top of the cabinet.
Nice. So these are super helpful for putting you back in the room when you have in-ears in, because they'll block out It makes you feel separated. That's the word. It separates you from the room. But using a room mic can bring the room back into your ears. You do want to start with making sure you can hear your band first and hear yourself. Then you turn up the room mic. That should be the last thing you turn up in your mix if you're mixing yourself. Yeah.
Is it okay to have like one in ear and then the other?
I got that right here. It's point two right here. Avoid using only one ear.
Because I've heard mixed things about it, so I'm like, what is
Yes.
the
Yeah, our whole
reasoning?
TV uses one ear.
Yeah. So
I've started using both because I realized, especially for vocalists, it makes you really pitchy, or like it makes you go flat. That's what I've heard for vocalists.
it's technically dangerous for your hearing because you take. So a lot of these things that I'm telling you right now come from my aunt, my dad's sister. She's a professional audio engineer, and she told me all this. So this is coming from a pro audio engineer. When you only use one ear, you can have up to 10 decibel levels of volume difference because you turn up your ear so much to compensate for the volume. That's what I wrote right here. So you can cause hearing loss if you consistently pull out one ear. So you want to avoid that if possible. Now, pulling out both of them for like you're stepping back from the mic. Okay, you sing it. Pull out both of them. That could work. But I would avoid using only one because it can damage your hearing. And having a good mix will solve the problem of you wanting to pull one out. I get it. I always want to pull one out. So I try to do my best to mix the room back in so I don't want to. Yeah.
So I use both ears, but I put them lightly in. Like I don't push them in. I just like they're just random, so I can hear the in ears
That's a
and
very
out.
Well, that's why you get the echo.
They're not even in your.
Yeah.
Why you asking them, well, how do you fix the echo? Because you're not.
No, it's
You definitely want all in or all out. I'm sorry. So sometimes in-ears don't fit well, and that might be a problem. Yeah, that's the problem. So, yes, however, my personal opinion, I'm a big fan of the cheap $20 Amazon in-ears. The reason being, they happen to fit in my ears. If you need custom fit ears, then you have to do it. It does help if you need that. But the reason being, I've sat or stepped on my in-ears so often, like I bought the $100 Shure ones, and I used them 2 times and stepped on them, they were done. But if you get the $20 Amazon ones, then you just replace them just like that. And I actually think the Amazon ones, just the off-brand whatevers, they sound great, actually. I'm a fan of them. Any more questions about using in-ears before we move on?
No, but one thing you didn't mention was the sound guy's hearing. Like as we've gotten older, like I used to be on stage with a lot of those kind of loudspeakers, and so I got ranges like that I don't hear. Like,
Yeah.
So I think I can do sound because who knows what's going on in that area, right?
Yeah.
You didn't mention like the people that are going to volunteer for sound, any kind of qualification on their hearing.
You definitely want to be able to hear well, something that can help. Because the whole point is you're mixing sound. You want to be able to hear what you're doing. What can help is a decibel meter or a decibel level meter that just tells you the general volume of the room. I actually just set one up at the church I'm at. And it's super helpful just knowing the overall volume. That won't tell you where your peaks and frequency might be. It'll just tell you how loud the loudest peak is. So that's where you could get fancy and set up some room measurement mics that are on all the time, and you could tell like if something's loud. But generally, you want to be able to hear well enough to where you can mix fine. And if you know that you have a certain I have a little bit of hearing loss, then you know to keep things turned down a little bit more than you would think, because you would have to turn it up for yourself. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so before we move on to these with the ears, I think you guys have mics back into my in-ears because it will tend to take the clarity out of everything, but I'm sacrificing that connectivity with the people for that. My biggest beef, and Caleb knows for the past years, I wanted to come in and use wedges because my big beef was we are connecting with the people. And I love hearing the congregation. Sure. It's like, it's so rad. I don't know what adjective to use, but like you guys this morning when we were singing, just take me to heaven. That's just beautiful. It's like so spiritually encouraging. And to take that out of your inner or on your monitor mix, it's kind of a bummer. But again, it's not all about us. So we're all working together toward just one goal of leading people to the Lord. So I kind of sacrifice that for myself. The other thing is, our church has gone this way. We don't have a choice. So
That'll do it.
with the playback app and the click track, and I want to touch on this. You've got to have the click in your ears, and if it's not up, you fall off time. And when you fall off time, everything falls apart. I think it's a crack up to go. I run sound in youth too, and I'll go on the youth room. The bureaus run exactly like this room in the sanctuary. So I'll click in to see what the students put their in-ear mix as, because they have control with their iPhones. And I think you guys do the same things too. And I'll see vocal and click track. And that's it! There's nothing else. It'll be the click track and vocal. And there's no reference for pitch. There's no, it's like, that's not a mix. So it's, I don't know how they survive. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask on that too, because sometimes I'll ask some of the other musicians, because they're falling off time or off pitch. I'm like, can you hear me through your ears?
Yeah. And they don't answer you.
Yeah. I'm like, you can't, because I'm doing something and you're doing something
Yeah.
completely. So
Yeah.
with your point, you said, obviously you gotta listen to yourself, and then timing and then pitch. But like, how, like, I'm assuming the lead, whoever's leading, you need to have it there too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Loud enough that you can know what's going on.
Yeah, so in my mix, Kim and Pete are usually there. So they're just like up. They're the primary leaders. And then right next to that is the click track. Just slam it. And it's, if I don't have that click track doing that,
It gets lost with everything else.
well, you can actually be so on time with the click that the click disappears. And that's a perfect world where you're so locked in, the click disappears. But, and that's a beautiful thing when that happens. And that will happen. And then you'll notice the band will just be slightly off and the click is really pronounced. So,
Just really quickly,
Yeah.
what tone, like, do you like the beat, do you like the cowbell, do you like the woodblock, do you like the shaker?
yeah, I'll actually plug in the
The
playback.
metronome one, just the regular
Yeah.
metronome?
Yeah, okay, you'll plug it in.
Yeah, I'll show
Do
you.
any of them have light, like it flash for you or something else? Because, that annoying sound sometimes.
It is annoying, you just kind of have to
Yeah.
embrace the annoyance.
But it's like you said, it does disappear at one point if the whole band is.
Yeah. And can I say, if you practice with the click when you get on stage, it sounds bad. But you gotta learn to practice with a metronome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the first time we did this, and that thing came on, I'm like, whoa, I was not prepared for it. But now it's just
So
kind of what it is.
one of the things with church sound is a professional band. I watched a documentary on some heavy metal band, I forget, but I watched a documentary on how they toured and their whole setup. A professional band will actually have a separate soundboard and a separate engineer just for monitors. And that's technically the best way to do it, when you have a person sitting there running your monitors. Most churches don't have that capability. Most of the time it's running secondhand and afterthought on the main board. So what I've started doing is when I'm running sound, I'll set the mix, and because I know what a good monitor mix should sound like for ears, I'll actually put on headphones and I'll cue each band member's mix, and I'll turn into monitor mixing engineer for a minute. And I'll make sure they can hear everything they need to. Not everyone can do that, but that's like next level.
Feels like invasive.
Yeah, so you watch out. I'll listen to your mix. Yeah, the key, I usually don't change the main stuff, but I'll make sure that things that are not there, I'll bring them up a little bit. Just so like you can hear everything. And it sounds like you're actually playing a song instead of I'm playing guitar to a click, like you were talking about.
Now, you guys use the guides, right?
Yes.
For everything, not just the lyrics and just the counting.
Yeah,
Everything. But you guys use verses, chorus.
yeah,
How beneficial is that for real? Very.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've used it, it's nice.
For a team, it becomes very beneficial. And the reason why is most of the time your team is changing, and you don't get a lot of practice. So you don't even have to learn the arrangement. The guy tells you where to go. And it becomes a crutch, but it's almost a good crutch. And it's mainly because our environments don't leave a lot of time to practice.
But we don't have practice time, we show up just not to go.
Yeah.
So,
And then Pete, he runs through the song once, and that's it. And
So words he's expecting you to know.
oh yeah, he expects you to come practice, and it's like, that's it. And then if you're not ready, you just,
well, I mean, obviously, there's a problem with like learning it, but
yeah.
it does, I mean, there's no question, when you start a verse, it tells you, yeah.
Yeah.
When you lead, can you like concentrate? Like, can you worship with it?
Yeah, it's funny, it took a while for me, it was very awkward.
It's like a skill.
Talking over a guide sometimes,
Yeah.
as you're leading people, it's just like anything though, the more you do it, and I'm not perfect, like, proficient, like, human being, but, gotten used to it, for sure. When this is all in a band context,
Yeah.
if we're leading on our own, like, it doesn't say, I would never use it.
We may, for the first song tomorrow, use the guide. And that's because it's Raise a Hallelujah, and it's very fast, and the tendency for the musician is just to go slower and slower and slower. So we were practicing, we're like, this is slowing down. I'm like, why don't we just use the track? And that'll just help us. Now, you're not gonna hear other instruments in there, but you're gonna hear that, you're gonna see that we're staying on time. We're gonna stay on time, we just told them we're gonna.
Yeah. Just kidding.
Now they're all going to be listening.
So
Yeah.
when I think using ears for like singing, I'm kind of like Angie, one in, one out, because I can't. How do you get over that? It's not like you can practice.
You can, if you can practice and like get in here and practice a little bit more and put both ears in, and maybe you have a music day and you set those. And hey, let's focus on a Saturday and focus on the in ears. Let's see if we get the vocals clearer. What's the balance of the music, the vocals, and set it and just see what you like. But practice with both ears in.
So I have two things that I found help me, because I also sing with in-ears. I lead and sing with them. I actually would prefer to sing with them than with a wedge now, and I found two things. Boosting is getting technical. Boosting the top end on my overall mix and adding a little bit of reverb on my vocal in my ears helped a lot for me to be able to hear myself. That requires working with the sound guy. What?
Keep delay completely out, just for,
Yeah. But a little bit of verb to make it not so dry in your head, not so much that you lose your pitch clarity. But I found that helped me in boosting the top end so I can hear your tone better.
how much,
That helped.
like, percentage-wise, like, how much percentage on fader would you say you're putting the ambient light for the room in your in-ear?
Not working? Let me try and get a visual. I would do like that.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I would do.
So for the ambient mic though, how much like percentage?
Like a room mic?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's different. I meant the vocal effect reverb.
Right. I just mean separate question.
Yeah.
How much of that, as far as you?
Like how much would I turn it up? I would turn it up enough to where I could start to hear the room, but not too much. Because then there's other things like audience clapping. You don't want that to throw you off, because that can be a big thing. And you'll hear slapback of drums bouncing off the back of the wall, which you don't want, so not too much. And I like if I'm playing drums with in-ears, I'll have the iPad open with my mix right there. So if the song is quiet and everyone's singing, I'll turn it up right there and then bring it back down. Not everyone can do that if you're like playing a guitar, your hands are full. But that's just a little thing. So I wanted to real quick, to answer your question, Darren, on broadcast mixing. This is our church broadcast 2 weeks ago. We had Gia come and lead worship with us. You might know who she is. She travels around a lot with our band. And I think it'll sound all right. Let me just play it.
Second service professionals, they're already up and standing, ready for the
So
backflips.
she's about to play. So you could turn that up a little bit so everyone can hear it. So a couple things to note is I found on my end that doing some fancy compression on the broadcast, I'm getting technical here, fancy compression on the broadcast mix overall helps a lot. I have all my levels on the broadcast send the same for the band. And if you have your room mix good enough, it will translate over. So this is all even levels. And I was mixing this weekend. But you have to have a good room mix.
Pre-fader or post-fader?
Post-fader. So it follows my changes. So this took a long time to figure this out. I found the optimal level to hit the compressors at. The compressors you can get really technical in. I won't dive into it. I have like 3 compressors on the broadcast mix.
So you don't have a separate stream mixer?
We do.
Oh, you do?
Yes. And you can adjust the levels a little bit, still post-fader. But I found that if I have a good room mix, just keeping them even helps. And we'll listen to this for a couple seconds. Notice on Angie, that's the girl leading, her vocal, sorry, Gia, you're Angie. Yeah. You'll notice that I have some wet effects on her, so some reverb and delay, and I have it up in the broadcast mix. That's huge for making it sound not dry. There's also some audience mics, I think, in there, but... Hear that delay trail on her vocal? So you can hear every instrument. There's an electric guitar, an organ, a bass, her guitar, the drums, 2 singers. I think it sounded all right. It could have been a little better, I think.
You're on the backside of it too.
I'm also on the backside, so I can't hear the clarity like you guys can. So those are just some little things I found with the broadcast mix. Having a good house mix can help a lot if you're running it post-fader. So just some things. Gia is also a really good singer. That helps. Yeah, that was a fun song. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but the organ was really pronounced. Something in modern worship music, there's two instruments that are so key. If you can get them right, it'll make it sound really modern, very elevation worship-like, is like Dad was talking about, electric guitars, that super wet, lots of effects, really tasty, and keys. Keys with pads and organs, those are huge. I also wanted to, real quick, this is separate. That's really small. We'll try it anyways. So this is a separate recording from a couple months ago it's a multi-track recording that I did of a live service. It's actually all 3 services, full band. This is Logic Pro. So this is like GarageBand on steroids. And if you ever want to get into music production and whatever, I recommend Logic Pro. It's pretty cool. You can do a lot. But I found that it's fun since we have a nerd talk. We have a Dante equipped system, so I'm able to network all the stuff into my computer. That's how I multi-track record. So I like recording weekends if I can, because it's just fun. If you ever get like a really good song, it could be like, hey, live album. So what I wanted to do was, real quick, talk a couple quick mixing tips. And this will be helpful for everyone to know. So I wanted to show... So this is our vocal. This is Jonathan. And I will be up front. I did put auto-tune on it. But that's... It's called Waves Tune. I don't know if you've seen it or not. This is a cheap version of auto-tune. But you can see how it works right there. I set it to the key of E major. So that's the only effect on it right now. So listen to it real quick. Sounds muddy. Sounds very boomy. Where's the channel? Here it is. So I wanted to just show you real quick a couple EQ things, couple compression things. This'll, if you can get your vocals sounding good, it'll change everything. So this is off right now. This is the EQ I set beforehand. I'm going to turn it on, listen to the difference. You guys hear that? So that's what a sound guy is doing when he's EQing your vocal, is a lot of times with live mics, especially with like Shure 58s or 57s, they're cutting out a lot of lows, sometimes boosting the highs, finding problem frequencies, cutting those out. This is what they're doing. So now, I'm nerding out a little bit. So I'm going to slap on some compression, and you'll notice instantly that it'll boost the level. Here it is. So you can see that little needle pointing back. What a compressor does is as the volume increases, it automatically decreases the volume. Or, yeah, you could call it that. So a compressor is like an automatic person sitting at the fader, bringing it down as the volume comes up. I won't go into all the settings, way too technical for now, but a compressor evens out the dynamics. You don't have quiet quiets and loud louds. You have even quiets and louds, if that makes sense. Good compression and good EQ can make a vocal super pro without millions of effects and stuff. This is all stuff that can be done on a soundboard. Simple stuff. Sounds much better. Let's turn those off real quick. That's off. That's on. So now I'm going to turn on, I have a couple of effects. My aunt always does this, and I copy my aunt. Short reverb and a long reverb. Vocal delay and a little bit of chorus. Those effects can make it sound like studio quality if done right. I didn't do this for very long. It's not fine-tuned. But
God is a lion, the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power.
you hear that?
Fighting our battles, every knee will bow.
Those are the effects I've slapped on it. Maybe you wouldn't put that much reverb on in a live setting, but that's what effects do. They make you sound more like in a big hall. It makes it sound epic. A little bit of chorus brightens it up.
So you have that going on while we're singing live?
Yes. And now something to keep in mind is that the sound person will probably turn that off if you're talking. You don't want reverb when you're talking. But when you're singing, they'll turn it on. So that's a little sound guy thing that they might be doing. Let's see. We have a couple of backup vocals, one melody that's higher octave, and two harmonies, and it's just sweet sounding. So let's. That's Treyu, if you know who Treyu is. I'm going to add in the harmonies. You hear that? So, and there's effects on them too. So that's an example of really nice sounding backup and harmony vocals. What I did with the harmonies, there's two separate harmonies, Wendy and Kaylin I have in here. I panned them left and right. So it sounds like a wider, like choir almost feel. If you have a harmony singer that is sometimes leading, you wouldn't do that because you don't want to remember to pan them back in the center. I'm just throwing out random things. Let's listen to the whole band. Kick and snare. This is on AirPods, so I don't know if it sounds good in this system. I have some reverb on the snare. Let's add in the rest of the drums. So that's like a drum kit by itself. I'm just giving you guys some perspective on like what things might sound like if it's if someone sat at it and messed with it. Here's the bass. That was Meredith. That's the end of the song. Let me go back. Acoustic guitar. It's not very loud, notice that. Acoustic guitar in a modern band is not very loud. It's more of a glorified shaker. Here's the electric. Some piano and keys. That's the band without vocals. With the vocals. Vocals are louder than everything else. Lead guitar solo. That was Jairus playing. He actually did a pretty good job. So, almost done. Hopefully this is interesting. This is just like, it's fun to like listen to things individually and you can start to pick things out. This is what I do in my free time. Sounds great. Here's just the harmonies. Yeah, that was an off note, yeah. It's just fun listening to vocal harmony. good vocal harmony is my favorite thing ever. So, yeah, I love it. And then if you want to get really technical, throwing more wet effects, more reverb and delay on the backup vocals versus the main vocal is a pro level move, which I actually did here. So, any questions on this?